Good evening to all of you who are already in. A warm welcome to you to this evening's webinar on restoring your health. This is second in the series. We had one last Sunday, and I hope to have a few more in the coming weeks. If you can hear me, all of you who are present, you have a chat box that's available there. Please type in your chat box that you can hear me. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of you. There are quite a few people still joining, so let's give them about 2 more minutes to join. Till then, let's try and understand from where we are. Can you just type in the chat box the city from where you come? Can you please type in the chat box the city from where you are? Can I have a few more? Thank you. Thank you. So we've got people from Lucknow, Delhi, Panvel, Delhi, Mysore. That's nice. Okay. Tremendous. It's good to see all of you here. Well, to recap what we did last time, we actually understood the 5 pillars of what functional medicine was all about and how you reverse any chronic disease by going through functional medicine and the 5 pillars. And the 5 pillars were nutrition. So you had nutrition, you have balancing of your hormones, you had removing your toxicities. You also had a sound mind, how you can get sound mind, how you need a sound mind and a sound body to restore your health. So today, before we get started, I would just try to brief you on, but before we do that, my first question to all of you this evening is how many of you truly believe that what you eat decides how healthy you are? And how many of you truly believe that your food could be your poison or your medicine? If you resonate with both these statements, I'd like to see a few answers in that chat box. Yes or no. Can we have that, please? A few more answers. Thank you. Thank you to all of you for responding. So this evening, we are going to be talking more on nutrition, on how food that we eat could actually be the cause of a lot of disease that we go through, and why many of the medications that we do are wrong, or why we actually see the kind of problems we see with the food that we eat. And so right through today, we are going to look at the various kinds of food, what research tells us, and how we can use it to the best benefit of improving our health and reversing disease. Now, having said this, this is largely a beautiful new presentation that I've specially made for this webinar. And I want to let you out on a secret. And the secret, my dear friends, is that a lot of the matter that I have put in here is from my upcoming book, Is Your Doctor Keeping You Sick? A lot of the matter that is being used or you'll be seeing is practically raw. It's coming from a lot of research that I've done for my book, and it is from my book, which is going to the printers, to the publishers very soon. Should be out in the second half of this year. Is your doctor keeping you sick? So a lot of what we are going to discuss on nutrition today is going to be from there. And I think I will get started now. And I shall share my screen with you, and I will ask you to keep responding to my request for participation. So I need you to type in the chat box whenever I say do type. I would request you to cut off all your videos so that you can get good audio and you can see me. Your own video, if you can cut it out, it will give you better volume and better reception. With that done, let us begin. Right, so nutrition, key to our health, is what I've titled my session today. I hope you enjoy it. I know you will. And yes, you will find a lot of answers in today's session, which will tell you how we can use food that we generally eat to reverse a lot of the disease that we see, which does not get better with all the medications that we take. So let's get started, my dear friends. A warm welcome to you. And thank you for taking out your Sunday evening and joining me in this session today. And before I start, with your permission, I'd like to share my journey with you. Yes, I have been a functional medicine doctor for the last 17 years. I've had the honor and have been blessed to treat over 25,000 patients, many of them or most of them heart patients, using principles of functional medicine and saving them from undergoing any kind of surgeries. I've also treated a number of cancer patients, and I continue treating a lot of geriatric and other patients who have chronic disease and who would like to live a good life. I thank you for joining me today. In my mission to touch 1 million lives, I want to go out and give you knowledge that you can use to ensure that you can live a better life, a more healthy life, a more cheerful life, and definitely a more prosperous life, because health, they say, is wealth. And with that, my dear friends, I'd like to talk to you today about whether our food is our medicine or our poison. And let's look at our veggies. I was just speaking to a couple of doctors and health personnel this last weekend, and I was telling them how veggies today are laden with heavy metals because of the pesticides and the fertilizers that we use, and how fruits do not have what they're supposed to have. And let's understand this a little more. When we talk of our veggies, these veggies are grown commercially. We use pesticides and fertilizers, both of which have got a lot of heavy metals. These heavy metals, when they get into the soil, get into the plant, a plant does not excrete any toxin. Any animal will excrete a toxin, but a plant doesn't. And therefore, whatever gets into the plant gets into you and me. And as a result of which, a lot of these heavy metals like lead, mercury, cadmium, get into the soil and get into our bodies, into our food chains through the veggies. Unfortunately, the fruits that are grown, a lot of them do not have the minerals they're supposed to have. These fruits are grown in the plains. And where does the minerals to these plains come from? It comes from the source of where the river comes into the plains and gives it the minerals from the source. Now, unfortunately, most of our rivers are dammed today. And when we dam our rivers, 90% of the minerals that come from the source from the mountains to the plains are blocked in those dams. As a result of which, whatever you get from your soil is no longer there because that soil is not recharged. In third standard geography, we were taught our soil needs recharging. The rivers recharge our soil. How do they do that? They bring the minerals from the mountains, from the source of the river to the plains. Unfortunately, the plains do not have any more minerals. So the quality of fruits that we eat, even if they are local, sometimes are not as good as my forefathers or my grandfather or great-grandfather ate. Secondly, 90% of our fruits are plucked in the raw phase. See, they're plucked from various parts of the world where they come to us, to our markets, or even within our country. Our country is huge. They come from the northern tip of the country to the southern tip, wherever they come from, they are plucked raw because they can't possibly be plucked ripe because by the time they reach you, they would get rotten. So they're plucked raw, they're brought into a warehouse, they're ripened, and then they're sold to you in the market. Now, all the minerals from the soil get into the fruit during the ripening phase. So how much of minerals do you actually have? And what is the importance of all these minerals in your food, in your fruits? Each mineral that you get, whether it's chromium, whether it is zinc, whether it is magnesium, whether it is any of the others that you can think of, are all required for your biochemical reactions. We have a million biochemical reactions that go on in our body, and each one of them requires a cofactor or a catalyst. And these activities or these duties of a cofactor or a catalyst are done by these minerals that come into our food chain. Now, having said this, what is the solution here? Well, if you try organic veggies and locally grown organic fruits, yes, that could be our medicine. And therefore, I've started this slide right at the beginning to show you that though we have a purely vegetarian diet, and why is this so important for me? It is important for me because I remember I used to do a lot of patients in just give me a minute. In places like Surat, where I used to get a lot of patients who are purely veg, and they used to come and tell me, Doc, why is it that being vegetarian, being a non-smoker, and not having any alcohol, and being extremely strict about the kind of diet I have, do I get heart disease? And 90% of the times, Ronald, at the end of this session, I'm going to give you a small refresher or ready reckoner, I would say, on what you could do during these challenging times that we are going through. Yes, I will do that for you. So having said that, yes, I used to have these patients in Surat who were pure vegetarians suffering from heart disease, and the question was why. And I should tell them, yes, you are vegetarian, but this is the reason. Your veggies have heavy metals, they have toxins, your fruits do not have minerals, so you have a double whammy. You are eating food that you think is good for you, which could be harmful for you. And therefore, my question right at the beginning, is our food our medicine or our poison? And let me carry on with the next question. What did our forefathers eat to keep them healthy till the ripe old age? Yeah. That is a question that all of us, or I have been asked very, very, very frequently, because they keep saying, hey, listen, you know what? A lot of these patients, a lot of my, whatever you say, my grandfather ate whatever you're saying is bad all his life. Why are you telling us not to eat it? The reason is very simple. Their appetite for a variety, seasonal and local foods was very, very heavy. They wouldn't go out of their locality to eat any food. It was from their own locality. It was seasonal. They would eat it seasonally, and there was always a wide variety. Many of them were rice eaters, and a lot of them had a lot of half-cooked or fresh veggies, fruits and nuts. and a lot of locally made, homemade oils, fats, and some amount of meats. So this was their staple food generally. When they were non-vegetarian, they would eat some meats. Whenever they were vegetarian, it was always locally made, homemade oils and fats, and veggies and fruits and nuts. Most of their veggies were half cooked. What they ate was always seasonal and always local, and it was always different. So therefore, when it is seasonal, on season to season, you're not eating the same food. It's always different food that you eat on a regular basis. And therefore, they were having these seasonal foods, and that kept them very healthy to their ripe old age. They lived longer, they lived healthier. If you resonate with what I'm saying, please type please say yes in the chat box. For those of you who just joined in, like to see some answers. I need to get some response from you so that I understand. Yes, thank you. Thank you for all those answers. Awesome. I hope you keep doing that right to the end. And so with that, I'd like to share with you something from the Mayo Clinic, which I've actually put in my book. And I'm going to read it verbatim, and I hope and I'll explain it, what it says to you. So this was in 2004. O'Keefe and his contemporaries or his team actually put this down. It said our genetic makeup, shaped through millions of years of evolution, determines our nutritional and activity needs. Although the human genome has remained primarily unchanged since the agricultural revolution 10,000 years ago, our diet and lifestyle has become progressively more divergent from those of our ancient ancestors. Accumulating evidence suggests that this mismatch between our modern diet and lifestyle and our Paleolithic genome is playing a substantial role in the ongoing epidemics of obesity, hypertension, diabetes, and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. Until 500 generations ago, all humans consumed only wild, unprocessed food, foraged and hunted from their environment. These circumstances provided a diet high in lean protein, polyunsaturated fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids, monosaturated fats, fibers, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and other beneficial phytochemicals. Historical and anthropological studies show hunter-gatherers generally lived generally to be healthy, fit, and largely free of degenerative cardiovascular disease in disease common to modern society. So what did this actually mean? It simply says that we were hunter-gatherers till 10,000 years ago. Farming started only 10,000 years ago, my dear friends. And since then, we have been farming. Probably mankind's problems have started since farming started. Our genome, and what is a genome? In the late 90s, early 2000s, mankind has been able to actually go and see what the genome is. We could possibly create a man in the laboratory now because we know the genome. Having known the genome, they said, hey man, we know the genome now, what do we do? So we can take care of all the diseases that mankind is afflicted with. But unfortunately, this didn't happen because then they realized it's not the gene that is the problem. It is the epigenome or the factors affecting the gene that is very important. And these factors could be nutritional, could be environmental. And exactly what this says. It says the human genome has not changed much. It is about a 0.3% difference from what we were 10,000 years ago and what we are today. But the kind of food that we eat, we have been eating has changed drastically and dramatically. What we used to eat, which was high lean protein, polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats, fibers, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and a lot of phytochemicals that used to come from the plants, which were beneficial for us, no longer come. And I have told you the reasons right at the beginning of the session today. So that is one of the reasons why we are facing the epidemics that we face: the epidemic of diabetes, the epidemic of cardiovascular disease, the epidemic of autoimmune disorders, and the epidemic of cancers. So we are having all kinds of epidemics of chronic disease that affect us. And on top of it, today, We have the huge pandemic of a virus. Now, what is a virus? I will come to it at the end of the session if we have time. A virus is nothing but the virus that's currently in the news is an RNA material. It's not even a living organism. So how does it create so much of a problem for us? That's because we have weakened our bodies so much with the kind of food that we eat that our immune systems have gone to dogs. If our immune system can't take care of a virus, that means we have played havoc with it. So this is the basis of improving our immune system. The kind of food that we eat, what goes in decides how healthy we remain. If you resonate with that, I'd like to see a yes in the chat box, please. Please type yes in the chat box if you believe in what I'm saying and it makes sense to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all those responses. So let's look at today's food plate. Today we eat 60% to 70% carbohydrates. We have 15 to 20% proteins and 10 to 15% fats. This is what conventional medicine has always told us. In fact, even I used to tell my patients about 25 years ago, before I started functional medicine, that this is what you should be eating. I used to have arguments with a lot of my friends. And it was always claimed that dietary fat promoted heart disease and obesity. You couldn't be further from the truth, my dear friends. This caused a lot of people to follow the conventional low-fat, high-carb diet, which actually created the whole problem that we face today, the epidemics of diabetes and heart disease. Even today, despite there being so much of evidence to show us that there is enough to show us that dietary fat is good for us, they still tell you eat only 10% of your overall diet should be fat. And that is the problem. That is the basic problem when we look at how we take care of our foods. In fact, in India, it is sad that traditionally we were known to have a lot of fats. We were known to have a lot of ghee, homemade ghee at home. In fact, I still remember as an intern, I was sitting on the table with my father, who's also a doctor, and at a dinner table actually after a conference, and we were talking, or my dad was talking to this very senior cardiologist and diabetologist from Bombay, and he was telling us at that time, he said, you know what, my father laughs at me. He's thin, he's well kept, he's active at the age of 90, and he has this much of ghee. And our books tell us we should not be having ghee. And he says, I have with the so-called healthy life, healthy food, and see how obese I am. This came from modern medicine, a very well-known doctor those days. And that is what got me thinking. And after I finished, I decided to look at it, study this, and get into what was functional medicine and why a lot of what we see in modern medicine does not fit in what is called disease reversal, and rather than just taking care of a symptom. That's what we do as doctors many a times. Traditional Indian diets always had a lot of fats. They used to have a lot of fats. They were far healthier. What does good ghee, homemade ghee do? We'll come to that when we look at, even if I forget it, please remind me at the end of the session. I will tell you what good homemade ghee does to your system. Our overdependence on wheat, rice, and other grains have caused a huge epidemic of diabetes and obesity in this country. And not only in this country, it is the world over. Populations which are not so overly dependent on grains, like let's look at some of the European populations, the Mediterranean population, which uses a fair bit of fat and protein in their diets, are far more healthier than ours. In fact, ours being one of the poorer nations in the world should not be having affluent diseases like diabetes and heart disease. We have 1 in every 4 having heart disease and 1 in every 3 being diabetic. In fact, I had the chance of actually doing some research for a scientific paper that I was presenting overseas for a conference, where I came across one study and I had to publish it. The poorest state in this country, Orissa, has the highest amount of metabolic syndrome in women, and these people don't even have 2 square meals. Why are they having metabolic syndrome there? So we have a lot of questions that we need to ask, and it is because of the kind of food that we eat, my dear friends, and that is very, very important. We need to understand this. So when you have a carb-heavy diet, remember that carbohydrate diet is the one that causes most of our problems. When you use too much of carbohydrates, you cause a lot of insulin to be secreted in your blood. This insulin becomes, when it increases and it can't work because there's too much of insulin in your blood on your sugars, it is called insulin resistance. What happens here? Couple of things happen. You have too much of insulin that is there in the blood, and the site at which the insulin is supposed to work, that area does not allow it to come and be used for using insulin to get glucose into the cell. So you need insulin to take the glucose and put it into the cell so that glucose can be used as energy for our body. We eat all of this carbohydrates, it converts into glucose. You need this insulin, but the amount of insulin that comes out to transfer this is too much. And because it is too much, sometimes it leads to insulin resistance. When you have too much of insulin in your blood, this itself is a risk factor for heart disease. High insulin can cause heart disease. And therefore, how can you ever recommend a diet that can create high insulin, which can cause high heart disease, as being safe and reducing the incidence of heart disease? This has been a misnomer. This has been a misinformation given to all of us for the last 3 or 4 decades, that if you have a high carb, low fat, low protein diet, you will have a heart, or you are having a heart friendly diet. This is the furthest from the truth. This is the biggest falsehood that we were made to believe. If this carb heavy diet increases insulin in your blood, which causes heart disease, how can it be safe? How can it be heart friendly? I leave that answer to you to realize, to think and understand for yourselves. When carbohydrates enter our body, they get converted into glucose. This glucose is needed for our body to actually use it as sugar, as energy. But when it is excess, most of this gets converted into triglycerides, which in turn gets converted into VLDL and LDL. Now, this is what we check, don't we, when we go and check cholesterol? And don't we say that it is because of oil that we have cholesterol? Don't you remember those ads that were coming? These are cholesterol-friendly oils. No cholesterol is formed from oil, my dear friends. It is formed from carbohydrates, from your wheat, your rice, your bajra, your jowar, your maize. All of it get converted into triglycerides. From there you get LDL and LDL. And by the way, this is only 20% of the cholesterol that comes from your diet. The rest of the cholesterol is normally made in your liver to help you to heal your body. It is never made to harm you. Please understand this. And therefore, the misnomer that cholesterol is causing heart disease. And I don't have a full presentation on cholesterol here, but I'm just going to tell you this. Liver makes cholesterol to go and repair your body wherever it's required. And this cholesterol is then taken on what is known as LDL. So you have large fluffy LDL that takes it there, puts it at the place where it's required to be used, and it's brought back on HDL. So LDL is not bad, it's doing its job. What is bad is when LDL gets oxidized. And I have something over here, and you'll understand when it gets oxidized. It gets oxidized when you have heavy metals in your body. It gets oxidized when you have all kinds of toxins in your body. And when it gets oxidized, it becomes small, dense LDL. And that small, dense LDL is bad for you. That is bad cholesterol. So remember that. But generally, cholesterol doesn't go up because you eat non-veg food or protein or fats or oils. What happens is that it is caused more when you have a lot of these carbohydrates. Okay. So have we understood so much? Can we have a little bit of yeses in those chat box? Thank you. Thank you. Now, when you have too much of insulin in your blood, it leads to central obesity. What is central obesity? It's fat around your belly region. So you get a belly, you get a paunch. That is the first sign that you start getting a metabolic syndrome. A majority of the requirements that are required to classify you as a metabolic syndrome, what are they? High triglycerides, high insulin, high blood pressure, weight gain. All these are required for you to be classified as metabolic syndrome. Now, when any condition is classified as syndrome by modern medicine, always remember it simply tells you we in modern medicine don't know what's happening. That's why we're clubbing it as syndrome, and we don't know how to treat it. Because till date, we have not been able to reverse metabolic syndrome. What we do, we give pills for diabetes, which are caused post-metabolic syndrome. We give pills for hypertension. There's never been an effort to reverse metabolic syndrome. But the simplest solution to metabolic syndrome, my dear friends, is a diet change. You cut your carbs and your metabolic syndrome starts reversing. Simple. We have not done this basic thing. Reduce your carbs, go on a high-fat diet, a moderate protein diet, and you automatically reverse metabolic syndrome. I did a video a couple of weeks back, I think about a week or two back, I don't know if it's still on. There are two things I spoke about. One is a low-carb diet, and the other one is an intermittent fasting diet, both of which sensitize your insulin and reverse metabolic syndrome. You need to go back on one of my pages on Facebook and look at those small videos. It'll give you a lot of information. Or go to my YouTube channel. They are also there. Now, having said this, I'm now shifting focus on going to each individual food items that we need to look at. Yes, visceral fat is something that and I'm coming to how you cause visceral fat. Excess sugar or insulin, which harms our body. Yes, it is excess sugar. And if you have excess sugar, yes, you will have excess insulin in your body, and both harm your sugar, because sugar causes high insulin. Insulin is the one that causes you problems. I will answer more of these questions at the end. So keep those questions, hold your questions. Let's have a more animated conversation. I will have a full 20 minutes for you to give me any number of questions that you ask, and I will answer them. Okay, so why is wheat bad? I want to finish about 6 food items here which you regularly eat, and let's look at them and understand what is good and what's bad for us, and then maybe we can take a few take-home messages. So here we go. Why is wheat bad for us? Because when I did a video on wheat, I had the maximum number of negative comments I've ever got. I mean, they were not more than the positive ones, but a lot of people were wondering what I was talking, whether I was talking sense. So I decided to really go deep in this topic during this particular webinar, where I will explain to you why wheat is bad, so that you can actually understand what I'm saying. So let's start with the first one. 2 slices of whole wheat bread raise your blood sugar higher than 8 teaspoons of table sugar. Can you understand this? 8 teaspoons of table sugar have less, or will raise your blood sugar less than 2 slices of whole wheat bread. And what do we tell our diabetics? Please have whole wheat bread. Is this right? These are facts. This is something that I have taken from studies done and published in modern journals. This is a fact. 2 slices of whole wheat bread increase your sugar as if you have had 8 teaspoons of table sugar. How can we do this? How can we ask people to eat this? The one reason we used to do this is because wheat, and whole wheat precisely, was considered to be complex carbohydrates. And therefore, was it a complex carbohydrate? Truly, yes, it was a complex carbohydrate. So let me explain this to you, and you need to understand this. So please pay attention. And then you will understand why it is important that you understand why wheat is bad. Because when we don't understand what we are eating, that's when we make the biggest mistake. We think that doctor is talking nonsense, and we are not motivated enough to make those decisions going forward for our own health. Unless we take the decisions in our hands for our own health, we will never be able to reverse chronic disease. So my request to you, understand this, because then you will be motivated to take these decisions for yourself. Complex carbohydrate in wheat is called amylopectin. This is highly sensitive to amylase, which is a pancreatic enzyme. So, and the pancreas releases, besides insulin, also pancreatic enzymes, the digestive enzyme. Amylase is one of them. So it makes it very easy to digest amylopectin, and it digests it so fast that it raises the blood sugar rapidly, even more rapidly than table sugar. So this causes a spike of insulin, a spike of sugar and a spike of insulin simultaneously. Now, what do? We have wheat for breakfast, we have wheat for lunch, we have wheat for dinner, and in between, we have a half a dozen snacks. We have samosas, biscuits, crackers, cookies, whatever we can for snacks. So every 2 hours, we are actually eating wheat. This results in the increase of visceral fat because there's too much of spiking of sugar taking place, too much of insulin taking place. This visceral fat then goes and encircles each of our organs, our intestines, our heart, our liver, our kidneys, and keeps the blood sugars always high. So how do we actually go and reconcile telling or understanding or saying that chapatis are okay, rice is not, when wheat creates so much of a problem? Yeah. So this is one reason why wheat creates problem and why wheat is bad for you. Let's look at some others. Wheat contains gluten. Gluten does not digest in a small intestine. This causes small area of foci of inflammation. Now, any inflammation in your gut is enough to keep the blood sugar high. So for a diabetic, wheat and particularly gluten is a poison because it will always keep his sugar high. Now, the word gluten, which is there in the wheat, the protein in the wheat is called, one of the proteins is called gluten. It comes from the Latin word called glue, that means to bind together, hold together, or cake together. Now, these binding properties also interfere in the breakdown, digestion, and absorption of other nutrients, which include nutrients from other foods that you're eating in the same meal. So we generally have a roti or a chapati with other vegetables. Now, when you have gluten together with that, all those nutrients coming from those vegetables do not get absorbed because this gluten prevents it. It interferes with the breakdown, digestion, and absorption of those nutrients. And the result is that all of this is glued together like a constipating lump in your gut, which is one of the reasons why many people have both constipation and irritable bowel. So if you remove wheat from their diet, both disappear. And they don't seem to understand it is wheat that's causing it because they say, my father had it, my grandfather had it, great-grandfather had it. The wheat that they had and you are eating are two different types. The wheat that we eat is a high yield variety of wheat, which is now common all over the world, which is chemically modified wheat. Please understand that. And this is the reason why all these problems happen. Now, why else is wheat bad for us? When undigested gluten is present in your intestine, it triggers your immune system. And this immune system starts attacking the small intestine because it thinks that that is what's causing the inflammation. Because this gluten goes and creates small foci of inflammation, like I said to you. This attack of my immune system causes symptoms like diarrhea, constipation, nausea, and abdominal pain, which is so common in so many of our elderly patients as you cross the age of 55, 60. And then you come and tell me when I say stop wheat, you say, I've always had wheat. I've never had these issues. Why am I having it now? Because your system can no longer take it. And therefore, it's now fighting back. And therefore, you have these problems that you see. This is the reason why you get these problems. So over the time, another thing happens. Your small intestine gets so inflamed and damaged that it cannot absorb other nutrients as well, leading to anemia, osteoporosis, and other health problems. So please understand, wheat is not bad on its own, is not only bad on its own, it also prevents your other nutrients from getting absorbed and giving you good nutrition. Now, there is something called gliadin in the protein, which interferes with the normal intestinal barrier. See, our intestinal barrier has got very tight locks, which it doesn't allow anything to go through it very easily. What happens with the gliadin is it starts opening up those locks between two sections of our small intestine, and this allows foreign substances to enter the bloodstream without getting properly digested. Substances such as wheat lectin. Now, what are lectins? Lectins are immune system of the plants. You have lectins in all vegetables. Some of the lectins are good because you have a lectin in spinach, which is good. But what happens in the lectin of wheat, which is called agglutinin? It's a 4-part complex. This agglutinin was given to rats. This lectin from wheat was given to rats, and these rats showed that after having this wheat germ agglutinin or the lectin of wheat, their small intestines got completely destroyed. This is one reason why people who eat wheat so much have autoimmune and inflammatory distress, such as joint inflammation, bowel inflammation, acid reflux, inflammation of the brain, inflammation of the airways, and hence when removed from the diet, it causes patients to live well without any autoimmune symptoms. They become asymptomatic. They don't need medications. Also, I've had tons and tons and tons of patients from all over the country who come to me, and we with acid reflux, and they say, Doctor Saab, acidity ho gaya hai. Acidity. What is acidity? It's just gastroesophageal reflux. You stop wheat, your gastroesophageal reflux will disappear. You don't need to take PAN 40. You don't need to take antacids. Stop the wheat and see what happens. But you need to stop it minimum for 3 months for effects to start. Because there's so much of damage in the small intestine, in the gut, that needs to repair itself. Only once it's repaired, you will see all this disappearing completely. My own father, being a doctor, he wouldn't believe me. When he crossed 60, he was constantly having issues with GERD. I stopped his wheat and it disappeared. He eats wheat today even once by mistake. For 10 days, he has GERD. This is the problem with wheat. And this is the problem with the kind of food that we have. We can reverse disease, stop issues without just by changing the food that we eat. Why else is it bad for us? I will just show you this one study that was done in the 70s, where psychiatrists found by simply removing wheat, a lot of the schizophrenia patients saw a marked improvement. You put wheat back, their condition worsened. Now, when they did their studies, they actually traced it back to another protein called gliadin, which is there in wheat. A part of the gluten protein. This is a part of it actually. When you ingest gliadin goes and binds to the opioid receptors of the brain. It stimulates appetite. It says it wants you to eat more. Therefore, when you have a pizza, you see the pizza started small. Today, how big is it? If you have a pizza, you still don't feel full. You feel like eating more. That satiety is not there. Secondly, because of this binding with the opioid receptors, if you're used to having your bread in the morning, you crave for it if you don't get it on one fine morning. You start craving for it. It's similar to being addicted to opium. So you're addicted to that bread because this gliadin binds to the opioid receptors. In addition to gliadin, besides acting like acting in the brain, it also has disastrous other effects. People with ADHD become more hypersensitive. They have behavioral outbursts. People with schizophrenia have major hallucinations. People become bipolar, who are bipolar become increasingly manic. That means their problems, psychiatric problems increase. People with eating disorders get into binge eating, and they have further food obsessions. So wheat generally is bad for us, and we need to get rid of it. What happens when you remove wheat from your diet? When you remove wheat from your diet, you have improved weight loss, reduced appetite, lowered blood sugar, reduced joint pain, reduced inflammation, improvement in the cognitive function. So don't you think if you suffer from any of this, you would like to be free of this? Won't you want to remove wheat? And if you didn't have to have any medication, just wheat could take care of this. Won't you do it? My dear friends, I've had patients who used to complain to me of migraines, ordinary migraines. Get the wheat out of your diet, your migraine will disappear. Take it from me, try it out. I've had tons of patients who benefited from this advice of mine. It's free today for you. Use it to your benefit, improve your health. I'd love to see you healthy, happy, cheerful, and living well. The second item that I want to get to is cow milk and its poisons. We are so addicted to cow milk in this country, we don't realize why it is bad. Unfortunately, the cow milk that we drink is not from the ancient Indian cow. Very few of us get that kind of milk today. Most of it comes from commercial dairies. Now, cow milk is meant for carbs, my dear friends. It is not designed for human consumption. How many of you would agree with me when I say that even the cow, an adult cow, does not drink its own milk? It's meant for the calf. Which other animal actually goes out and drinks milk of another animal? We force feed a cat to drink it, but on its own it will not. Cow milk contains about 3 times on an average amount of protein than the human milk does. So it's far more than what is required. This creates metabolic disturbances in humans and it is damaging to bone health. Every one of us thinks that there's calcium in the milk and that is supposed to improve our bones. You are far, far, far from the truth. I'll tell you the reason why. Milk and milk products are inflammatory and they are mucus producing. There are chances of increasing risks of respiratory condition and allergies. I have got so many of my patients who have asthma, young kids, when we stop the milk, asthma disappears. Elderly patients who are on COPD, we stop the milk, the COPD calms down. Our autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis and SLE, no symptoms seen when we stop wheat and milk. It has been linked to development of arthritis, to joints becoming inflamed. I have seen tons of these patients. This is because casein is a protein of the milk, like gluten is of wheat, casein is of milk. This protein in the milk does not digest in the human gut. It causes similar problems unless your milk comes from the old Indian cow, where that casein is slightly different. This one does not digest. If that one digests, you're going to have none of these problems from the milk that I'm talking to you now. This causes the immune system to be hyperreactive. It causes allergic reactions. It causes autoimmune conditions. Milk is touted to be high in calcium, but it is not so. So many studies across the world have shown no decrease in osteoporosis post consumption of milk. There are tons and tons of studies. I have, when I'm in writing this book that I'm writing, and I'm actually putting some of these statements from my book here. I have done enough research to check n number of good data coming out from some of the most reputed institutions in modern medicine who have shown no increase no decrease in osteoporosis because of consuming high milk. There has been none. Instead, it has had a calcium leaching effect. And what I mean by calcium leaching effect, it removes the calcium from your bone. Does instead of promoting bone health, it destroys your bone. This is the problem that we have seen in many of the studies that are coming out. Dairy products most certainly help cause, not prevent osteoporosis. What is osteoporosis? It is thinning of your bone. It is lack of calcium and magnesium which causes the thinning of your bone. So this is caused more by milk rather than helping it. Lactose is another protein lactose is another sugar that is present in milk. You have something known as lactose intolerance. We know a lot about lactose intolerance. 10% of the population has lactose intolerance. It causes diarrhea and intestinal disturbances. So another reason why you should stop milk. Anyway, people with lactose intolerance generally stop. But many people don't realize that they border on this because there are another 20-30% who may have on and off chances of on and off diarrhea, and they don't realize that it's because of milk, because they don't consume too much of milk. They consume very little milk, and so they don't link their diarrheas that come often post having once in a while an ice cream to the ice cream that they've eaten, or to the milkshake that they've had. So I have seen a lot of these cases, and when we do an elimination diet on these patients, we understand that the cow milk is the problem, and we need to stop it. That's when the patient realizes, but it's too late because there's so much of damage already done that we have to undo this damage. So why not prevent it altogether? Why allow this damage to get into our bodies and we come with damaged doctors to try and sort this out? A glass of milk contains acid animal protein acidic animal protein which leaches calcium from your bones. It contains pus cells. It contains feces components. It contains bovine, that is cow growth hormone, which is so detrimental to the human body. And today, a lot of antibiotics and a whole lot of unnecessary fat and calories, all of which create a terrible imbalance in our body. I had a dentist friend of mine who turned on and told me no milk is good for a young kid because milk spoils the teeth. Casein spoils the teeth. So as a dentist, he said, I always advise kids not to have milk. It also contains a lot of bovine antibodies. These are antibodies meant for the cow body, not for humans. And it is no way going to help us. It creates further autoimmune conditions within our body. It creates other autoimmune reactions which damage our own body, and they're not supposed to be in our body at all. Besides this, today the cattle in dairy farms are injected with a whole lot of hormones. These hormones get into your body and they create hormonal imbalance, especially in women. Insulin-like growth hormone, IGF-1, is given to ensure that the calves grow very fast. This itself gets into humans and causes all kinds of cancers. There's enough and more proof for this. Having finished with milk, the two, we have done wheat, we've done milk. We're getting to what oil do I use? So at this point, can we have some of you telling me that you're understanding what I'm saying? Just type a yes in that chat box. I just want to make sure you're still with me. Some more of you, please. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your response. I'm so happy that you're responding. I hope this is benefiting you. I hope you resonate what I say. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. Thank you. Now, what oil do I use? A common question most of my patients ask me. Why do we use oil in the first place? We use oil for cooking, for quick transfer of heat to the food that is being cooked. This is why frying is usually quicker than other cooking methods, such as boiling or roasting. Now, cooking oil has a good tolerance against high temperatures. It doesn't boil or break down right away. Cooking oil also provides additional flavor depending on what it's made of. But when used in baking, it also helps in moisture retention, tenderizing, and leavening of the ingredients. But the main problem with cooking oils, especially vegetable oil and hydrogenated vegetable oils that we use, is that when it is heated, it releases what is known as trans fat, free radicals, and toxins. These leach into your food and wreak havoc on your body's biochemistry, affecting your general health. Now, what is a trans fat? A trans fat actually goes and sits at the door through which your food is supposed to enter the cell. Your nutrition is required in the cell. Your minerals, your glucose that goes into the cell gets blocked by trans fats. So the insulin can't take the glucose in, the minerals cannot enter it because the trans fats are sitting on these gates. They block this gate. And therefore, you need to stop having trans fats. Most of our oils are rich in trans fats, which is nothing but a synthetic fatty acid. It stops the body's production of prostacyclin. What is prostacyclin? Prostacyclin is a factor that keeps your blood flowing smoothly with no blood clots. But if you have low prostacyclin, blood clots can form, increasing the risk of heart disease. So trans fats can on themselves, the oil can increase heart disease, not by increasing cholesterol. It oxidizes cholesterol. The last line you can see, it oxidizes cholesterol when heating, increasing thromboxane formation, a factor that promotes clot formation in your blood. And it causes two toxins called cyclic aldehydes and acrylamide. Bunch of these problems that you get from these oils that you get in the market, all the vegetables oils which are refined, is because of hydrogenation. Hydrogenation is a process that is made for the oils, is done for the oils when they're refining them to give them a shelf life, to give them an awesome shelf life. And therefore, most of your refined oils have what is known as hydrogenated vegetable oils. They are all hydrogenated. In the early 20s, these oils were actually done for uh, basically what we call lighting candles to create wax. The electricity here is just gone. I just want to know if you can hear me. Can you type yes, please? Can I have a yes? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I was just worried about that. I think it'll come back soon. We have a little bit of problems here. We are in the summer. Okay, so this is what happens when you have trans fats in your system. A lot of it causes heart disease. Heart disease is caused by oil, not because it interferes with your cholesterol formation. It causes all these fats that you have, all these oils that you have, uh, the uh, the refined vegetable oils that you have, the sunflower oil, the mustard oil, whatever you get in the market, which are refined, all cause trans fats and all cause heart disease in the way I've just showed you. Yeah. Now, which other oils that you will avoid completely? You will avoid soybean oil because it contains plenty of highly processed omega-6 fats. When used in cooking, leads to increased level of omega-6, which in turn leads to chronic inflammation. You need to have omega-3, omega-6, 1:2 ratio. If omega-6 is too high, soybean has got too much of it, you will have problems. Corn oil is similar to soybean oil. The ratio is 49:1, when the ideal ratio is to be 1:1 or 1:2 or 2:1. If omega-6 is 2, omega-3 has to be 1. Maximum, that should be your ratio. Canola oil, you have seen many of, probably in the recent times, I have seen a lot of advertisements that say canola oil is bread and is safe and a good cooking ingredient. This is not true. It can introduce oxidized cholesterol in your body when consumed. Now, instead of refined vegetable oils, the healthiest cooking oils that I can use are olive oil. And generally, you need to have virgin olive oil, or you have a cooking variety that's available, which is known as pure, which is not refined. And it is also very, very good in cancer, specifically in lowering the risk of breast cancer in women. You can have what is known as grass-fed butter. This is raw organic butter made from healthy grass-fed cow's milk. We hardly get this here, but yes, if you can get it, it's awesome. It has a lot of vitamins A, D, E, and K2, which are so good for you. It also contains various minerals, antioxidants that can help support your health. Then you have peanut butter. This oil contains, or peanut oil, which contains high levels of omega-6, similar to many vegetable oils, but it can be beneficial to your oil as it is high in, to your health because it's high in antioxidants. So as long as you consume it unheated and in moderation, peanut oil may be useful for you. Sesame oil is similar to peanut oil, has high omega-3, but it also has, if consumed unheated and in small quantities, will benefit your health because of the antioxidants that it has, especially if you are a diabetic. But my best cooking oil, if you're not using homemade ghee, is coconut oil. And having said this, you can use any other unrefined local oil if you're not getting homemade ghee or coconut oil, which is a cheap substitute. Like you can use an unrefined mustard oil or a locally made mustard oil, locally made groundnut oil, but they don't have the benefits of coconut oil or homemade ghee, while they may not have the ills of commercial oils or refined oils. So let us see what coconut oil brings to the table. Coconut oil has amazing benefits. It has a positive effect on your heart health. It improves your good cholesterol levels while simultaneously lowering your bad cholesterol. What is bad cholesterol? It's small, dense LDL, not fluffy LDL. You need the large, fluffy LDL. You need to get rid of the small small dense LDL, and that is what coconut oil does. Uh, the risk of heart disease decreases drastically. It gives you a huge energy boost. Every one of my patients who is on a keto diet and who's on what we call intermittent fasting diet, they have what is known as an energy bomb. An energy bomb for them is putting a tablespoon of coconut oil in a cup of coffee and having it whenever they feel low in energy. It gives them that energy boost. Why does it do that? Because it has a lot of medium chain fatty acids or medium chain triglycerides, which are a great source of healthy energy. So when you consume it, the medium chain fatty acids or medium chain triglycerides are immediately digested and converted by your liver into energy, which can be used up immediately. So yeah, you can see that I actually just took that thing from my book. It is said, which is discussed later in this chapter. So if you ever get a chance when it comes out, please pick it up. I've got a lot of lovely health tips there with a lot of studies that I have put down. It would benefit you a lot of stuff that is coming in that book. And yes, it helps you in weight management. Besides giving you energy boost, coconut oil stimulates your metabolism, which in turn encourages shedding body weight, thus helping you maintain a healthy weight profile. Many a times people who have a lot of coconut oil, they kind of shrink, they kind of reshape. And though their weight might not go down too much, their body shape changes drastically. I've seen a lot of my patients doing well on that, even in their weight loss regimens. And then it has antimicrobial properties. Compounds of coconut oil help keep your internal organs free from infections. In lab studies, coconut oil was seen getting rid of candidiasis in mice. This is something that I picked up when I was doing my research for my book. It's amazing, but in the good old days, in the west coast of India, I come from Goa, we have coconut oil as a staple. Kerala has coconut oil as a staple. They use it for any antimicrobial properties. The old grandma's tales, everything that you want to mix is mixed in coconut oil because of its antimicrobial properties. The best is oral health. A lot of the old generation, my grandmother's time, used to use this because then there was no toothpaste. They used to use a lot of coconut oil for oral hygiene. Even today, it is coming back in a system called oil cooling, a hygienic practice that you rinse your mouth when you get up in the morning. It helps pull out and eliminate bacteria and viruses from your mouth, which generally live in your mouth, along with the food debris stuck between your teeth. So coconut oil is great for that as well. Okay. So before we go to that, let me talk about a little bit, because I don't have slides on homemade ghee, but I'm going to tell you why homemade ghee is very good for you. Homemade ghee is good for you because it is one that gets into your body and lines your small intestine. So whenever you're eating bad foods like wheat and other things which are going to go and damage the internal lining of the small intestine, it is the homemade ghee that goes and lines it and protects it. This is one of the biggest protection you get from homemade ghee and should be eaten. So do I advocate eating it with wheat? No, because at some point your internal gut gets so inflamed that even the homemade ghee may not be able to help you at that stage. So at that stage, you need to stop the wheat. So instead of reaching that stage, you stop the wheat and you use homemade ghee, because homemade ghee also will help you to prevent the other toxins coming from other lectins which are there in veggies, which can cause what I spoke to you, the leaky gut, where your gut junctions are opened up and toxins enter the blood supply without getting properly digested. That can be prevented when you use homemade ghee. So very, very good food item that you can use to get your gut health in its top shape. Okay. Having said this, I know a lot of people in this country are vegetarians, but those who are not keep asking me, is red meat good for us or not? And so I have a couple of slides that I want to talk about here today and just inform you what happens and why red meat was considered to be bad across the world. Now, in the West, what they do, whether it is cows or goats for lamb, cows for beef, or buffaloes, they are used in farms where concentrated animal feeding operations are done. What do they give these animals? They give them grain. And these are genetically engineered grains. which are fed to these animals. Now, the natural food of these animals is grass, my dear friends. What happens when you have something which is not your natural food? You start, your whole body structure changes. So like humans are eating bad food, the animals were made to eat this corn and genetically engineered corn, which resulted them in becoming overly fat. It was good for the farmers because they were getting more weight on the animals. But what was it doing? It was drastically changing the kind of product they were giving us to eat. The omega-3, omega-6 ratio in the muscle of that animal, which had to be 1:2, which is anti-inflammatory. And that was what was good in the good old days when our forefathers were hunter-gatherers. They used to go hunt an animal and eat it because the animals were eating their natural food. Then the omega-3, omega-6 ratio is to be 1:2. This changes when you give them corn in these farms or genetically modified corn or grains, and it becomes 1:16 or 1:25. And this is where the problem starts, because 1:16 or 1:25 is inflammatory. And that is where red meat becomes bad for you. Good grass-fed animals will always have good levels of conjugated linolenic acid or CLA, which is a good, and it is 3 to 5 times more in grass-fed diets. This is a cancer fighter, my dear friends. It doesn't cause cancer when you have grass-fed meats. Grass-fed animals also have high amount of beta-carotene, B vitamins, thiamine, and riboflavin, alpha tocopherol, which is vitamin E and minerals, magnesium, calcium, and potassium as well. And many of those heart-healthy amino acids like L-carnitine, as well as something called coenzyme Q10, which all comes from red meat. But the red meat has to come from grass-fed animals, not from farms which feed their animals with grain or corn. Processed meat is the worst that you can have because it will cause cancer. It is preserved. What is processed meats? Processed meats are meats that are preserved by smoking, curing, salting, in addition to adding chemical preservatives. This includes bacon, ham, pastrami, salami, pepperoni, which is used a lot today, hot dogs, sausages, hamburgers. All of this is the crap that goes in a lot of our times when we go out and eat this fast food. This is processed meat, which is terrible. Nitrites that are used there to preserve these meat or as a preservative and in coloring and flavoring get converted into what is known as nitrosome amines, which increase the risk of certain cancers in your body, specifically colon cancer. And this is one reason why you have such a high amount of colon cancer in the West as well as in China, because they eat a lot of processed meat. Now let's talk about egg white and egg whole and an egg white. Today, a lot of people eat only egg whites. A lot of sportsmen think they're doing the best thing. Let's understand whether they're doing the right thing or wrong. Eggs as a source of saturated fat are unhealthy and promote heart disease is the worst lie that we were ever fed. It's just a couple of years ago, about 3-4 years ago, that the American Heart Association has removed the egg, the whole egg, from the dangerous foods list. But I remember saying this about 15 years ago in an international conference, and certain cardiologists in the audience came up to me after it and said, are you mad when you're saying something like this? And then I presented him some of the evidence I had then. I have a lot more today. A lot of it is in my book. But I would like to just place before you a few things that is okay for a lay audience to understand in this short span of time. Eggs, in fact, is one of the most healthiest foods that you can eat. It actually helps you prevent heart disease and prevent all kinds of disease, actually. In 2009, a study discovered that proteins, when cooked, the proteins in eggs, when cooked, were converted by gastrointestinal enzymes into producing peptides that used to act like ACE inhibitors. Now, what are ACE inhibitors? ACE inhibitors are common medications that we doctors give you for reducing or lowering your blood pressure. These, when you eat egg, when it gets digested, especially a boiled egg, The gastrointestinal enzymes convert it into an ACE inhibitor-like substance that helps you reduce your heart disease. So if it reduces your heart disease, obviously the whole egg is very, very heart healthy. Am I right? Second, the egg yolks, which are relatively high in saturated fat, correct, have nothing to do with raising your cholesterol, my dear friends. In fact, there are substances there which lower your cholesterol. There is research published in the International Journal of Cardiology that shows that healthy adults eating eggs every day did not produce negative effects on endothelial function, which is generally one of those measured uh, markers to see whether you are at risk of heart disease. And it did not increase cholesterol levels, number two. So two things that they have seen in that study. Another study showed that the nutrient content of egg or yolks, whether they were fed from primary wheat or corn, had 2 amino acids with potent antioxidant properties, both of which prevented cardiovascular disease and cancer. These 2 amino acids were tryptophan and tyrosine. Analysis also showed that 2 raw egg yolks had more antioxidant properties, equivalent to half a serving of cranberries, almost twice as much of an apple. Egg yolks also had a rich source of antioxidants, and the 2 antioxidants that they were high in was lutein and zeaxanthin, which actually prevent age-related macular degeneration, which is the commonest cause of blindness in the elderly. So if you want to stop going to that thing of macular degeneration and becoming blind in your old age, you should have a whole egg, including the yolk, because the yolk is the one that has lutein and zeaxanthin, which will prevent this. Then it also has tryptophan, which is an important, I just told you that, but it also has another very important function that it does besides preventing heart disease and cancer. It also helps, it's an important precursor to chemical serotonin, which regulates your mood. And tyrosine, the other amino acid that we spoke of, synthesizes 2 key neurotransmitters, dopamine and norepinephrine. And if these don't work properly, you're not alert, you start slowing down, you have decreased mental activity, you start getting to a point that you start becoming senile and you start mental fogginess. So these are very specific amino acids that the egg carries, the whole egg carries to you, so that you can have better quality of life. Today, egg white omelets are supposed to be healthy. They aren't, my dear friends, because if you're throwing the egg yolks out, you are throwing the most nutritious part out of the egg. And more importantly, the egg whites do not get absorbed without the egg yellow. So what you are doing is only troubling your gut to just take it in and throw it out. That's it. You need to have the whole egg or don't have it at all. Okay? So that's for the egg white versus the whole egg controversy that I just wanted to address in this session. Yes, they would be beneficial to Alzheimer's. Yes, I spoke about ghee, and I will give you a little more a little later. And you can ask me another question on Alzheimer's a little later. Now, fish and the controversies surrounding it. The commonest benefits of fish is the omega-3 fatty acids. This is supposed to support your brain, joints, skin, and vision. But the reason, also, the other reason why you need to eat a lot of fish and have a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, if you can't eat fish, have a lot of supplements. Many of the vegetarians do that today. Despite the fact that the capsules are non-veggie, they still have the omega-3. Why? Because the omega-3 fatty acids actually go and remove the trans fats that block those gates entering your cells where all the nutrition goes in. It actually improves the nutrition to your cells. It helps to clear those passages of any kind of other materials that block it. So eating fish gives you omega-3, but the problem is that most of the fish also is contaminated with mercury, lead, and cadmium. Especially if you're living on the coast, and you're eating fish that is around the coast, very close to the coast, because there's a lot of the effluents that go out there, and the fish consumes it and it remains in that, especially mercury, lead, and cadmium. So what fish does one eat? You have to eat small cold water fish, fatty fish, lots of fat, so that it has high omega-3 and low in contamination. So what would I suggest? Wild caught salmon from the high seas is excellent because it's low in mercury and other environmental toxins, and it's high in omega-3. So any wild fish, the big fish that you get from the high seas, is always good because it's low in contamination. So I avoid tuna, but my personal fish consumption would be mackerel, sardines, anchovies, and the wild Alaskan salmon. This is what I tell my patients to have. Is the chicken that you eat really chicken? Every one of us have been told that white meat is good, but let us understand what happens in India and many developing countries. Most of the chicken are given antimicrobials as growth boosters, tetracyclines, fluoroquinones, antibiotics that are used to treat diseases like cholera, malaria, respiratory tract infections, urinary tract infections in humans find their way in the chicken. And we eat it and it finds a way into our food. And we are taking these antibiotics on doses that are suboptimal and not required at that point in time. But what does it do? It causes resistance in us to these antibiotics, and therefore we get superbugs many a times which do not respond to the best of antibiotics. You get fevers, you get sepsis, you get so many other things that happen, and you're wondering, why are the antibiotics not working? Because you've been every day consuming it in the chicken that you eat from the market. About 10 years ago, I still go to Pune, but I used to go to a lot of other cities in rural Maharashtra, and I spoke to one patient of mine who was a rural poultry farmer, and these are people who used to give this county chicken, which was supposed to be very, very good. I used to eat it myself, and a colleague of mine told me that, you know what they do? They throw DDT on them. So I asked him, why do you do that? He says, we have to do it because the chicken don't sleep in the night because of too much of heat, and they have all kinds of disease, and then we don't get proper eggs, and they don't have enough weight for us to sell them. So when you spray DDT, it gets into their skin, gets into their system, and you are eating it. DDT is a banned substance, but it's available in some of our poultry farms. So it's unfortunate that all these things do happen in our food chain. The best chicken that you can have is if you have your own farm and have it from there, or if you know somebody who has a huge farm but doesn't use all these antibiotics and DDT. The worst are the broilers, because they are basically technically not even chicken. They are actually something that probably came out of too much of hormones, and the way they increase fast, and that's something that is commonly sold as white meat and good for you. It could be the most harmful food that you can ever eat. So after having spoken to you about all this, I'm coming back to the slide that I started with. What did our forefathers eat to keep them healthy till a ripe old age? It's their appetite for a variety, seasonal, local foods. What did I say? Variety, seasonal, local foods. That is the key. Many were rice eaters with lots of half-cooked or fresh veggies, fruits, nuts, and local homemade oils and fats, and some amount of meat when they were non-veg. What they ate was local, seasonal, and always different. So the gut always gets something new. And they were far healthier and lived longer. My dear friends, the whole purpose of this series that I'm doing is for you to live well. I don't want you to go to a doctor. I want you to understand your body and how you can improve it. Today, we are in the midst of a massive pandemic. Are you aware that these viruses live in us, basically? They're not supposed to attack us. They are not organisms. How can they bring the entire mankind, the most evolved creature in the evolution, on its knees? It's because we have stopped taking care of our own bodies. We have stopped taking care of our immune system. What you see today, this COVID-19 infection, is nothing but a disproportionate response an exaggerated response of a dysfunctional immune system. And why does our immune system become dysfunctional? Because we eat wrong, we eat dirty food, we drink dirty water, we breathe dirty air, we have too many toxins in our body, we inject a lot of crap in our body, we take a lot of antibiotics in our body, we take a lot of medications that are poisons, that do not and destroy the general natural detoxification systems of our body, our livers. We eat foods like high carbs that block our livers from doing what they're supposed to do. And as a result of which, our immune system becomes dysfunctional. Also, when we start suffering from heart disease, diabetes, autoimmune conditions, hypertension, automatically our immune system is dysfunctional. We expose ourselves to attacks such as what is happening today. This is not an attack, it is just a dysfunctional, a very exaggerated response of our own immune system. If we can take care of our immune system, many of us will not get that exaggerated response that you see. And why am I saying this? If you look at all the latest data coming out from all the hospitals that are handling it in the West, where they have so many advanced cases that are being put on ventilators, which is one of the worst things that you can do, because you generally have something totally different down there. They keep telling you that there's something known as a cytokine storm. What is a cytokine storm? A cytokine is something that is made, which is to get rid of the oxidant overload that you're getting. It's the body's immune system fighting back. But the immune system is overfiring. It is sending too much of cytokines. And this enhanced cytokines is destroying your own body. And that is the reason why people are dying. Now, if our immune system was functioning well, we wouldn't have had an overreacting, overfiring immune system. It's a dysfunctional immune system that does this. And my dear friends, food becomes the primary thing that you need to do, the right food for you to ensure that your immune system works. I will give you all the minerals that you need to take. That is a bonus for you for attending today's webinar. I'm doing these webinars because, and they're free, they're absolutely free. There's nothing that I want to sell here. I'm not actually promoting even my clinics. I just want you to live well, because if we don't take care of our immune systems, we are not only going to get hit by COVID-19, there are 1 trillion viruses that live in our bodies and around in our systems. They will all mutate. They will all start attacking us one day at a time. And how many times are we going to go lock down and stay inside our houses? How many times are we going to go and take these measures? We need to do something with our own systems. We need to take care of them. Today, we still don't have a cure for Ebola. We still don't have a cure for MERS. We still don't have a cure for SARS-2. The SARS virus that appeared 10 years ago. We still don't have a cure for hepatitis B and C, and we don't have one for HIV. So please understand that getting vaccines and cures for viral infections that we call it, which is, I believe, is a misnomer, but we still have to go by what it is called, is a very, very tall task. What we can do is be prepared ourselves, ensure that our body can face any onslaught, whether it's viral or bacterial, because our immune system is something that nature and God has created, which is a marvelous wonder. Nobody else can do. Immune system for our bodies, to take care of our bodies, is beautiful. We are damaging it. And I want you to take this one message home: right food, the right way to ensure that you have a good immune system. Thank you, my dear friends. I will stop now, and I'm going to open the floor for questions, and I'm going to unmute you. But so I'll take a few questions that are already here. I won't unmute you because it'll become who everybody will talk at the same time. I want you to write your questions. So let me see how many I can pick up over here. Vanshraj Singh, congratulations, you stopped wheat and lost 10 kgs. I'm so happy for you. Vijay, yes. So what's the alternative to wheat? The most common question asked. You have got so many other what do you call carbs that you have. You can have rice, you can have bajra, jowar, all of that you can have. Absolutely no problem. What else? Let me see. Let me see what else I can do. I'm just going up. Somebody asked me ghee. Yes, homemade ghee, not commercial ghee. You need to do this. Martin Lazarus, thank you for that question. You need to have ghee. Yes, yes, yes. You need to have a whole egg and not just an egg white, please. I've told you what's the new question. Yes, what minerals that you should have. Okay, Martin Lazarus, just hold that. Quinoa to replace wheat and oats. See, my answer to this question to all my patients is, guys, listen. Your system is used to certain food that you're already having. It's not used to quinoa. If you can have quinoa, I don't have a problem. But I would advise you to have something that is locally there for you. Reshma, grass-fed butter, you need to look. The last I looked in Mumbai, Godrej had some grass-fed butter. Little expensive, yes. Vegetarians getting protein, I'm coming to it. Amaranth is good for you, you can have it. Only see if the lectins there are going to interfere with you. Some patients do have it. The minerals, so the two questions that I need to have, minerals now during the COVID session, and whether and what are the proteins that a vegetarian should have. So I'm going to answer these two questions for you. I need you to and just hold on to the others. No to rice bran oil. It's not healthy at all, because it's again refined oil. If you can get rice bran oil which is locally made, yes, but not refined. Refined is a trans fat. I've said this. You can name any oil. If it is refined, it's a trans fat. Now, the supplements that you need to take. Number one, vitamin C, 1 to 3 grams. Start with 1 gram, go to 3 grams every day. So you take 1 gram, you take it once a day. You take 3 grams, you take 1 gram 3 times a day. You can't do it right from day one, you'll get diarrhea. Number two, just write this down. Number two, you need to take magnesium, 100 milligrams, 50 milligrams each. Magnesium should be magnesium glycinate, citrate, or a chelate. You need to take zinc, either a zinc citrate, chelate, or glycinate. You need to take selenium. Now, zinc has to be about 30 milligrams. You can take 10 or 15 milligrams twice a day. You can go up to 50 milligrams, there's no problem. Selenium, you need to take 200 micrograms or up to 400 micrograms is also fine during these days, but minimum 200 micrograms. Selenomethionine is the best salt that you can find, or the best form that you can take. Okay. So these are the minerals that you need to take. Besides this, you need to take vitamin D, minimum 5,000 international units a day. So these are the supplements that you need to take these days to prevent and strengthen the immune system and ensure that even if you get COVID-19 infection or the Corona SARS-2 infection, you will not have a problem. You will not get into a point where you need to get into a hospital and get into an ICU, because when you have high amounts of zinc and selenium, they create the alkaline medium around your alveoli and your inner lining, where the RNA can't get into your cells, can't get into the cells and damage your cells like it's being done now. Okay, so this is for that. For people, Mrinal, I'll repeat it for the benefit of everybody. Yes, you need vitamin C, 1 to 3 grams. Start with 1 gram, slowly go up to 3 grams by 4 weeks. Magnesium, 100 milligrams. 1,000 milligrams, not 100, 1,000 milligrams per day. That's 1 gram per day. 500 milligrams in the morning, 500 milligrams at night. You need magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate, or magnesium chelate. These are the salts. Magnesium oxide and any others will not work. Then You need selenium. Selenomethionine is the salt that you need. You can take picolinate also will do if you can get it, but selenomethionine is easily available. Then you need zinc. So selenium should be about 200 micrograms. Zinc, you need 50 milligrams, anywhere between 30 and 50 would do. Take it in 2 doses, divided doses, either 10 to 15 to 25 milligrams 2 times a day. Again, zinc should be citrate, citrate malate, or glycinate or a chelate. And you need zinc. So yeah, so magnesium, zinc, selenium. I've already said this, so all 3. Yeah, and vitamin D, 5,000 international units. So this is what you need to take. You can add natural tocopherols if you can get to it. I'm not giving you any trade names for any of this. You can go to any of the online pharmacies and Google it, and you'll find it. Oh shit, somebody was still waiting. Let's admit the person. I'm sorry you've come in so late. I just saw you. Yes. Yes. Omega-3 you can take. It's good for you. Take a good omega-3. You can even take an omega-369. There are a lot of companies in India that make it, so you can do it. Now, for the people who have no animal protein that they consume, especially vegetarians and vegans, what can you do? So I have a solution for you. If you need, see, ideally today's spread of your diet should be maximum 20-25% carbs, and that should be vegetables, lots of veggies, preferably half cooked or fresh. Don't ever do the cauliflower family fresh. It has to be half cooked, at least 50% or 40% cooked. Otherwise, it will interfere with your thyroid levels. So you have a lot of vegetables, but about 25 to 30% of your diet should be that. 20% should be proteins, and the balance 60% should be high fat. Now the high fat comes from homemade ghee, coconut oil, olive oil, virgin coconut oil, virgin olive oil, or pure coconut oil, and homemade ghee. I will not advise you to have any paneer, especially commercial paneer. I can okay cheese, but good cheese like feta cheese. So this is what you have to do as far as high fat is concerned. For protein, you have to supplement it with spirulina. You get spirulina from various places in this country, which is organic. Look for, if you go online, you can find organic spirulina. Use it in, if it's a powder, use it in your smoothies in the morning, or vegetable smoothies or whatever, or in the afternoon, whenever you want to have a smoothie. You can put it on your food. It doesn't have any taste. You can make it, put it in your soup. You can have it. Have a lot of beans and other lentils. They also have proteins. You have your bajra, jawar, ragi also having proteins. So these are the things that you need to have. Avoid cornflakes, for God's sake. It's got the highest glycemic index. Avoid all fructose. Many people go around saying that if you eat a lot of fruits, your diabetes will come down. No, there is fructose that is coming in from those fruits. That fructose causes what is known as fatty liver. Once you cause fatty liver, it will cause problems. For better gut flora, eliminates systemic fungal infections. Mr. Shekhawat, I don't know if you're Mr. or Miss, I can't make out, but GS Shekhawat, for you, homemade ghee, the best. Homemade ghee, the best. The other thing I do tell people is use our Indian pickles. So what happens with Indian pickles? They give you a lot of probiotics, which improve the gut in your bodies, the systemic infections, gut systemic infections. But yes, if you have fungal infections, you need to be treated first. Lentils do, Ashok Puri, lentils do have some amount of carbs, but not much. I'm happy for you, GS Shekhawat, that you're off dairy and wheat. But we will need to treat you if you have fungal infections, and there is a process by which I do this. It's a 9-month, it's a 3-month treatment. You can always get on to me. We are available on even teleconsults these days during this lockdown. My clinic in Bombay is closed, and I'm not here to promote that, but I'm just telling you, just in case you need it. I'm available on online consultations in Goa. We are functional partly. What legumes and pulses? I've just mentioned them. You can have all of them. Just let me check a few more before I. Vitamin A, yes, Mrinal, you can have it, but it is not. Yes, Dr. Shiva talks about it today, but in India, I don't think vitamin A is that much of an issue. We have a lot of carrots in our food, so there is a lot of vitamin A there. That should be sufficient. But yes, you can supplement vitamin A if you have a problem with it. Chronic inflammation of the appendix, colon, gallbladder, sludge. GS Shekawat, I need to have a personal consult with you. And yes, for you, because you are here, my first consult is going to be absolutely free. You can consult me over teleconsult, or you can come to my clinic, one of the two. It's absolutely free for you. I will try and see how best I can fix your gut up for you. Yes, I'm on YouTube. YouTube/C/ Dr. Lenny da Costa, D capital, L capital, D capital, C capital again. So it's very simple. It's YouTube/C/Dr. Lenny da Costa. And you can get, and I'm available every Monday. I come out with a small video on Facebook. Look out for me. You can look for Dr. Lenny da Costa Facebook page and say you like it. You'll get the latest videos at all times. And so also in my YouTube channel. And all my contacts are there. I wouldn't want to make this a contact place where I could give you contact because I want you to come to my clinic. This is something for everyone for free, but I'm available if you do need me. Neelam, you can have any kind of rice. So on the rice, I did a little bit of research some time back. And this rice was what we compared the Indian rice with the rice that is imported from Australia. The basmati has the highest glycemic index. Most of our other rice that we get, especially the fat one, the Kerala rice or the red rice, or the Goa rice, the fat ones, do have a glycemic index of about 51, 52, far lower than the chapatis that we have. And our normal ones that we buy in the market, which are basmati, are quite good as well. They have a glycemic index of about 59, 60 to 61. That is where the Indian rice stands at. The Australian rice, where most of the glycemic indices are based on, is at 68, while wheat is at 67. So whole wheat is at 67. So our rice is better than our wheat as far as the glycemic index goes. Rice bran oil, I've already said. Amaranth is fine. I've told you what proteins you can take. Ashok Puri, Reshma, yes, we've done that. Let me see if there's anything more. Yeah, so the take-home message for you, GS Shekhawat, you need to have a good probiotic. Even if you don't consult me, you need to have a good probiotic. One, you need to have good organic veggies and a lot of homemade ghee, and that will start giving you a better effect immediately. And you can use homemade pickles with not too much of preservatives. So you can use water pickles as well as normal pickles with your Indian red masalas and a little bit of turmeric, because turmeric itself has got curcumin, which is anti-inflammatory. So yes, if you use our southern-based curries like what Tamil Nadu uses with a lot of turmeric and chili, but not very spicy, yes, it will help your gut to come back to normal. So this is take home, but I will need you to kind of do a proper consult to get this off. We would need to work with you for some time till we understand what works and what doesn't work with your gut. Martin Lazarus, or Lazarus Martin, is it? Martin Lazarus. Yes, this entire, it's not the presentation, but yes, the entire video will be available on YouTube by Wednesday. We are actually, we have recorded it, and I hope it is recorded well, and I'll try and put it out there. No, basmati is not good for diabetics. Yes, I'm having a fresh webinar next Sunday. We will talk about pickled turmeric juice. We will be talking about some other pillar of functional medicine, maybe toxicities and detoxification and how to go about it. That will be done next Sunday. I want you to come because that's something which we don't understand much. We need to detoxify our bodies. Please be there. Mrinal, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you as well for being here. Yes, I'm 10 minutes over time. I should have finished by 6:30. It was a 90-minute thing, but I'm trying to give you as much information as I can. Is there a vegan alternative to egg? Sadly, no, Monali. But like I said, you can get large amounts of whatever you get from supplements and from super vegetables like spirulina. Yeah. Ashok Puri, thank you. You are very gracious with your praise. Thank you so much. Amit, it's difficult, but whatever food you eat, see, when you go, this is a thumb rule. So if you need to look at your plate, and you need to look at and divide it into 4 quarters. So the top half has to be protein, ideally, with a lot of fat on it. So it will have about 50% protein and 50% fat. The bottom half has to have a little bit of fresh vegetables, and you can have about 1/4 of a plate where you can put a little bit of carb there. Yeah. So that is how we generally tell most of our patients. Yes, we are having pickled turmeric would be fine. A lot of questions. Thank you, Dr. Bagre, for that. Thank you for being here on this session. Yes, if we can control this part of, and this is my, I think the very first or second chapter on my book, because I believe this is the most important. If you've got this right, you've got everything available. Thank you, Martin Lazarus. Get more of your friends next time. I will put this up and I will allow you to have it free, and you can circulate it to as many people. Yes, it is a 1.5 hour session. We will edit it slightly and then we'll put it up. Thank you to all of you. It's been a pleasure giving you. I am available on online consultations for those of you who really need me. Any of you who have been here, your first consultation is going to be free. Thank you, Devendra Punjabi. It was great to see all of you here. I hope to see you next Sunday. I have something more for you. These are not presentations that I have done in the past. These are specially made for these webinars. A lot of work has gone into them. I have put a lot of stuff from my book over here so that you can actually make use of it. And as and when you buy the book, it will become a ready reckoner for you to have a good life going forward. Thank you, and all the best to all of you.